Chris was born May 5th, 1989 in Tappahannock, Virginia, which actually is kind of close to where I grew up. I was born in Fairfax, Virginia. I believe my grandmother lived like the city over from Tappahannock, so I was around that environment. Actually, growing up, I remember going to Kings Dominion, which is a, well, side story, but is an amusement park in Virginia because I love roller coasters. And one time I was there, I was waiting for the best ride. And as I was waiting there, they started to clear out the roller coaster, which was terrible because I was waiting there for so long. I was the next ride up until I realized that security was coming in and they actually brought Chris Brown onto there. I'll never forget, he had like Trey Songz with him. He had his mom with him and they were just like taking over the amusement park. I actually went on the ride right after him, but that's my little Chris Brown story because we kind of grew up in the same country, Virginia area. I mean, Fairfax isn't too country, but where he grew up was the middle of nowhere in my opinion. But after Chris taught himself to sing and dance, he started to participate in local talent shows. He also was a part of his church choir. His mother actually recognized her son's gifts and she pushed him into the music industry, getting a deal at 13 years old. Now, I don't know if this was a theme back then, like, you know, with Justin Bieber and other celebrities, but 13 seems so young to sign a kid. It is such a crucial period in their development, them trying to figure out who they are, and now they've got an album to produce. I just don't know why they wouldn't wait a couple of years until he's like 16 or maybe 18. So his mother, Joyce, was a big part of putting him out there and letting him perform and showcase his talents because Chris was drawn to do this. Here's a clip of Chris performing at a local talent show.
I know we can do it, running out, talking about how we're feeling.
Now, while Chris had a supportive mother there to help him pursue his dreams, his family life wasn't all too stable. I feel like everyone comes from somewhat of a dysfunctional background. I mean, whether it's like a high degree or a low degree, we all kind of have our past trauma, especially getting into these different celebrities on this channel. I could recognize like Jada Pinkett Smith. We just saw how she went through it as a kid, which kind of explains her behavior now. And that's what I want you guys to go in with as far as a mindset or perspective, because I do think that these kind of behaviors, it's a cycle. So if Chris grew up in a terrible environment or an environment that was violent, maybe it's all he really ever got to know. Chris was 7 years old when his father Clinton and his mother Joyce divorced. Chris's aunt said that his mom and dad, you know, they had a great relationship. One day they were all together and then, you know, it all fell apart, which this is the, you know, Aunt Christine's perspective. But after Clinton was out of the picture, Joyce moved on and had a new man. So Chris and his sister were expected to go and move in there with them. But Chris and Latrell had no idea it was going to lead to his stepfather being physical with his mother, watching his mother being attacked by her new husband for years. Chris elaborated on his stepfather's behavior in his 2017 documentary, Welcome to My Life. He said he takes it out on his girl, and his girl happens to be my mom. This is what I had to deal with. I had to hear my mom get beat up every night. He was a monster, animal, pure hatred, evil. I'm sure, like you guys, I love my mom. I can't imagine someone trying to attack my mom. If someone tried to attack my mom, I would have literally killed him. Like, I mean, just put it out there right now. Like, if you try to come for my mom. So I can't imagine the anger and just the uncomfortability that Chris felt feeling his mom attacked by this man who's not even his father. Like, disturbing. To give you guys some context, his stepfather's name is Donnell. And Chris, while he did witness this for so long, he did eventually stand up to Donnell. It actually got extremely messy at one point where there was a weapon involved. In one story, I guess Donnell attempted to unalive himself, in which he did shoot himself in the head. This is like already a lot to deal with. You already have this like abusive Donnell man, and then he's doing way too much with this weapon. It sounds incredibly toxic. Here's a news clip that breaks it all down.
I made a foolish attempt by getting a gun and threatening to shoot myself.
Chris Brown claims that in an act of attempted suicide, his former stepfather, Donnell Hawkins, shot himself in the head. But Donnell claims the gun went off by accident.
And it was only a threat, so I put the gun, you know, on myself, and it went off.
Wait, okay, why? Okay, first off, I get, like, if the gun went off, it was an accident. But why is he sitting here over here, taking a weapon and putting it to his head, threatening to take his own life? Like, what is going on here?
It wasn't a suicide attempt.
Of his former stepfather's blindness, Chris said, quote, "When you're blind, your senses are heightened. But he used to hit my mom. I remember one night he made her nose bleed." But Chris claimed the abuse at home got so bad that he...
Wait, so I wonder if so Chris alludes to this man having a lot of anger built up and taking it out on his mom. I wonder if part of this is because he attempted to unalive himself. He had to live with this injury and
vowed to kill Donnell by the time he was 15.
Okay, that got really heavy really quick. Let's just take a little step back. After being discovered at the age of 13 and releasing his debut self-titled album at 16, Chris experienced a huge rise in the world of R&B. His father Clinton has been quoted saying, as a father, he couldn't be more proud of Chris, saying that he's the light of his life. Despite releasing over 10 albums and winning a Grammy, he has had a lot of low points within the music industry. His problems really began back in 2009 when he attacked his then girlfriend Rihanna. Let's shift gears and talk about Rihanna, because hearing that Chris wanted to unalive his stepfather at the age of 15, you would think that he really has a disdain for men who get physical with women, watching his mother battered for so many years. So then what was going on in February 2009 when he went on to attack Rihanna in a similar fashion? Headlines read that Chris Brown punched Rihanna and threatened to unalive her. A detective's report alleged that Rihanna's attack revealed disturbing details about what happened between her and her then boyfriend, Chris Brown. According to a search warrant in the case, Rihanna read a 3-page text message from a woman on Chris Brown's phone, which led to an argument. Chris Brown then tried to attack his girlfriend by forcing her out of the Lamborghini and hit her head against the passenger window. Now, to set the scene, before they got into this car, before this attack happened, Chris and Rihanna were attending a pre-Grammy party hosted by Clive Davis, a man who's super problematic. Go and watch my main channel, Sloan, to go hear more about him. If you guys want a deep dive podcast, let me know in the comments below. He could be the one you guys can go ahead and blame for Diddy and that mess. But the incident occurred after they left the event. While driving through the Hancock Park neighborhood in LA, they got into a heated argument in a rented car. Their argument led to this violent altercation, which we all saw blasted in the headlines with really haunting photos. The report claims that Rihanna turned to face Chris Brown and he punched her in the left eye with his right hand. He then drove away in the vehicle and continued to punch her in the face with his right hand while steering the vehicle in his left hand, which I actually know where Hancock Park is. It's a very quiet neighborhood, so there's not a lot of cars on the road. The neighborhood's in particular really no cars, especially for being in LA. So I could totally see him getting away with doing this and swerving and just making a fool of himself. Here's a clip of Chris describing this incident for himself in his own words.
I remember she tried to kick me. It's just her just being upset, but then I really hit her I with a closed fist, I punched her, and it busted her lip.
Even hearing him talk about this, it's just so it's eerie, because it's almost something he could just recall, it was last Tuesday, this happened there. Again, his body language does seem uncomfortable, but at the same time, his language, he's able to just spit it out, probably because he's retold this story many times. And essentially the goal of that documentary was to rehumanize Chris and to get his reputation back on track. So they were going to edit it and have him say whatever they wanted him to, again, taking accountability, but trying to switch up the narrative. Chris told Rihanna, "I'm going to beat the S out of you when we get home, you wait and see." Rihanna then called her assistant and left a message saying, "I'm on my way home, make sure the cops are there when I get there." The police notes say that prompted Chris to reply, "You just did the stupidest thing ever, now I'm going to unalive you." The report also says that Chris Brown bit Rihanna and put her in a headlock and she almost lost consciousness. Chris resumed punching Rihanna and she interlocked her fingers behind her head and brought her elbows forward to protect her face. She then bent over at the waist, placing her elbows and face near her lap in an attempt to protect her face and head from the punches left from. And Chris is a strong guy. Rihanna, this is so disgusting. I really makes me so mad because I can't imagine a man getting physical with a woman. Side note, I do some pretty heavy lifting and I'll bring my friends with me, my girlfriends, and I can see it's hard for them to lift 10 pounds because they're not strong, because they're a girl. I get it, you're a woman. So when I think about this man Chris just punching Rihanna, it's you don't really realize too the strength that some people have, that that's incredibly destructive, and we saw that in the photos. Eventually, Rihanna began screaming for help, and Chris got out of the car. A nearby resident heard the calls for help and called 911. Chris Brown was sentenced to 5 years probation and 180 days of community labor. He had to go on to take some DV classes and pay fines, yet I have to say, I don't think a lot of this stuck with him. Chris was ordered to stay at least 50 yards away from Rihanna except at industry events. That's 10 yards away, despite a request from Rihanna's lawyer for a less restrictive order. Chris was also ordered not to have any contact with her, which includes phone, email, or text communications. Here's a clip of when Chris Brown was sentenced.
Mr. Brown, imposition of sentence is suspended. You are going to be placed on formal felony probation for a period of 60 months.
It's 5 years probation and 6 months community labor for Chris Brown for his beating of Rihanna. The sentence handed down Tuesday by LA Superior Court Judge Patricia Sneg, as she also warned the R&B singer to stay away from his ex-girlfriend for 5 years. Brown got a year of domestic violence counseling as well, and he
I'm trying to decipher. What do you look at his? If you guys are not listening on Spotify and Apple, which if you guys did not know, you guys can go and listen to this podcast on Spotify or Apple if you're in the car, on the go. But if you're looking at this photo, this visual of his face right now, he looks a little sad, a little cocky in a way too. Maybe a little dissociated. Maybe it's just dissociation what I'm seeing here, because I do see some discomfort, fear in his eyebrows with him raising his eyes, but his eyes look so jaded and his mouth is a little bit tight, which kind of gives me the understanding that he's like not fully given in. Like I feel like when you're weak and you're like vulnerable and he's like, oh, distraught, you've got like a more loose mouth. Not me over here being a body language expert trying to decipher. After completing his year-long DV course in 2010, he posted onto Twitter, I have enough self-respect and decency to be proud of accomplishing this DV class. Boys run from their mistakes, men learn from them. I really wish Chris did learn from his mistakes then, but I think that this behavior is enrooted within him. And it's been so difficult for Rihanna to just kind of like move forward with this. For years, she was asked about this and had to revisit it. And it's so traumatic and it happened in front of everyone. So we're kind of like always looking at her for her next move or response to this matter in particular. I think it's part of the reason why she's moved out of music and gotten more into the brands and just a little bit disconnected from her stardom. It's like kind of like Beyonce. You don't really hear much from them. We see more Rihanna than we do Beyonce, but I don't think she's going to get personal anytime soon. Not after all of this.
This happened to me and it can happen to anybody. There are a lot of women who've experienced what I did, but not in the public. So it made it really difficult. I just felt like, oh my God, here goes my little bit of privacy.
Also, you have to understand, like, she's in it deep with Chris Brown. So, like, all this happens publicly, then she cannot talk to him because the entire world would witness it if it were to happen. And while I agree, like, yeah, don't talk to him, being in that situation, it's like sometimes it, like, you just went from being a happy couple to within an hour, you can never speak to this person again and they're charged and the whole world knows about this. It's like they probably did want to talk to each other and just kind of figure out, like, why did this even get to this point? I mean, again, Chris did this.
Why be ashamed?
Because I didn't want people to think that that's the kind of person I fell in love with that person. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing that that's the type of person that I fell in love with.
So clearly Rihanna was feeling a lot of shame over this incident, but it seems like Chris went into trying to fix his reputation. His team went into crisis mode, trying to make it clear that he's not this monster that beat up Rihanna, even though he is. I'm actually surprised looking back on the content that they were releasing then. I feel like we were in a different time as far as social media where celebrities were posting a little bit more. I know that sounds weird to think when like we've got everyone posting TikTok and things like this, but I feel like they felt more of an obligation to go and post these videos and to make these statements because it was their avenue to go and get their story straight when it came to the media coverage. And of course, Chris tried everything he could to make himself look better.
Hi, I'm Chris Brown. Since February, my attorney has advised me not to speak out, even though ever since the incident, I wanted to publicly express my deepest regret and accept full responsibility. Although I will do some interviews and answer some questions in the future, I felt it was time that you heard directly from me that I am sorry.
Wait, the response here, he's reading off a teleprompter, which makes it sound really inauthentic.
I have tried to live my life in a way which can make those around me proud of me, and until recently, I think I was doing a pretty good job. I wish I had the chance to live those few moments again, but unfortunately I can't. I cannot go into what happened, and most importantly, I'm not going to sit here and make any excuses. I take great pride in me being able to exercise self-control, and what I did was inexcusable. I am very sad and very ashamed of what I've done. My mother and my spiritual teachers have taught me way better than that. I have told Rihanna countless times, and I'm telling you today, that I am truly, truly sorry, and that I wasn't able to handle the situation both differently and better.
I hated that video. I mean, it seems like he had a gun pointed to his head and he was forced to say this. It was so inauthentic. I really would have appreciated if he just spoke from his heart and said like what he was feeling. But no, he had a perfectly curated message for him to read. You could literally see his eyes moving. Thank you for watching this clip from the Let's Get Into It podcast. To view the full episode, visit the link listed below.